And today I have another advisor that will be doing this workshop presentation with me. She'll be monitoring the chat and we'll try to have some good dialogue and questions. Sandra Pierre. We are both in different places. She's actually located up in Miami, Oklahoma, and I'm in Oklahoma City. So you're going to get the best of both worlds on today. Again, just want to let you know, we're going to go through a few slides here in a few minutes to talk a little bit about the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center, kind of give you a feel if you're not aware of what we do, kind of how we operate. And so I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to jump right into the information. There's a couple of ways today that you can engage with us. Obviously, we will take questions through the chat. So if you're not familiar with the chat box, you can put in information, put in questions, we'll respond that way. Also, that we'll have time. I think we have a small enough group today to where we'll even open up and say, do you have any other questions? And you can actually ask your question live as well. So that's a couple of kind of do's and don'ts. Again, we'll make the presentation available to you afterwards. So you don't necessarily have to take notes of what you see on the presentation. Here's what we do, the Small Business Development Center, and we'll say a couple of acronyms today. So again, during this workshop, if we mention an acronym, you're like, what does that mean? Don't hesitate to ask us. But SBDC is the Small Business Development Center. What we do is we provide confidential, high quality, no cost business managed advising, particularly for businesses that are for profit in Oklahoma. Now, you don't necessarily have to be in business to receive our advisements. You could be a person that has a great business idea and just trying to get started. We are committed to helping all Oklahomans in our economy grow one small business at a time. Now, where are we located? I just mentioned that myself, I'm in Oklahoma City and Sandra's up in Miami, but we are all over the state of Oklahoma. We cover all 77 counties. We were established in 1984, and we have a unique opportunity through a partnership with the SBA, the Small Business Administration. Small Business Administration is partly who funds us, and they provide a dollar for dollar match with a partner. And so a partner, for example, could be a college, a technical school. I actually am embedded with a partner that's a nonprofit organization. So guess what that means? SBA provides funding for half of my salary and the partner the other half. And they do that for all of our advisors. What does that mean to you? That means all of our advising services are at no cost. Our expertise, wide range of things that we can help you with, from accounting to human resources, real estate, marketing research. And we're going to talk a little bit today about marketing research and try to give you some ideas of why that's important. Lending, we work with SBA, and also relationships with other lenders to get your business funded so that you can actually do what it is that you have desired in your heart. Restaurants, financial analysis, you can see the list there. These are kind of the things that we do at a high level. But again, as I said, our expertise ranges. What's cool about our team is each of us have a different area of expertise. And so if there's an area within your business that I may not be as strong in or may not have as much information, I can reach out to one of my other advisors across the state that may have that area of expertise and can also help you. An example of that would be if you wanted to talk to me about international trade, that's not an area of expertise that I have, but we have folks that actually make up an international trade office, and that is all they do. Tech commercialization, that's all they do. And so we can do what we call co-advising to make sure that we meet your needs. Okay, that's a little bit about SBDC. That's a little bit about kind of our organization, how we are set up, how we're funded, and how we can provide information to you. As you're on this workshop today, as you know, we have workshops that take place all the time. You can always just check our website for workshops that are coming up. Okay, here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about market feasibility. We're going to talk about business plan. We're going to talk about legal structure. We're going to talk about funding. And we're going to talk about how do you actually set up your business name and registration. So one of the first things I like to talk about, we say market feasibility. And I'm not sure how many of you have heard that word, but sometimes that term can be kind of big. So let's break it down. Market feasibility is nothing more than a study that identifies the success of a product in a particular area. For the sake of our conversation today, it could be a product or a service. So it's really looking at that product or service in a specific area. And so we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail over the next couple of slides, but I want to start there with that. Business plan, your roadmap, okay? It is really the thing that is going to be put together on paper that designs an opportunity to really create a roadmap so that we can see from beginning to end how your business will be established, its mission, its vision, its financial projections. It's creating a roadmap on paper for you. Legal structure, how are you going to be established to where you meet all city, state, and federal regulations? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Funding, everybody wants what? Got to have money to start your business, right? Where is that going to come from? We'll talk about some different types of funding. And then lastly, how do you actually take the idea that you have, how do you create a business name, and how do you register that for your company or your business? Okay. All right. So again, you have questions throughout the presentation. Don't hesitate to put those in the chat. I'll also try to give a natural pause between slides, and so Sandra may jump in and may also have a comment or question, and we'll try to proceed from there. All right. All right, we're going to go to our next slide. Let's talk about market feasibility. You can see there are 4 bullet points that I've actually put up on the screen. The first one is really understanding the market opportunity. The way I like to think about this, I want you to imagine, and I like M&Ms. So I want you to imagine M&Ms, a big bag of M&Ms, all different colors, right? Now, for me, I like the red ones, okay? When I think a bowl of M&Ms, I want to pick out all the red M&Ms. So when I think about market feasibility, market opportunity, lots of colors of M&Ms in the bowl, but I really want to know about the red ones. I want to know about the green ones. I want to know what the opportunity is. What is the percentage? What is the opportunity I have to penetrate in a specific market? And so when you think about market opportunity, it's really trying to help you laser in so that you understand what that market and what that makes up. We're going to talk about in a different slide, demographics and some of the things that make up the market. Secondly, though, you've got to define your customer, okay? Now, when I think about a customer, I think about a person that's actually going to utilize my product or my service. I need to know who that is. Do they make up a certain age group, a certain demographic? Do they live in a certain part of town? What is their household income? So I've really got to define who my customer is. If I said to you, Starbucks, you would say coffee. Guess what? People that go into Starbucks do what? They drink coffee, or they want coffee, or maybe they want to be in a social environment, but you're defining who the customer is. Next is competitive analysis, okay? What the heck does that mean? I've got to understand who my competitors are, right? And if I understand who my competitors are, guess what I can do? I can understand what they charge for their pricing, what services they offer for that product or for that service, and how, if I can, compete with that, right? And that determines what my competitive advantage might be. And let me tell you, if you're wanting going in business or you're in business, you've always got to try to figure out what the competitive advantage is for your business. Okay, let's talk about market research. Now, first thing that I'll tell you about is you've got to understand demographics, okay? Market research for most people that are getting into business, and most of the clients that I help, this is the part that they don't like. Most of them don't like this. It's really heavy intensive to really figure out a whole bunch of stuff about how do I become laser focused, but it's vitally important. So one of the things that we do here at SBDC is we have a market research team to help you do this. Identify demographics, identify psychographics. Ray, what are you talking about? Lifestyles, personalities, values, opinions. What are people's interest in a particular area that I'm looking in? What is the demand? What is the market size? My goodness, what are the key economic indicators? What are the key stats to help me understand what's going on? If we think about what's going on right now in the world, I don't know about you, gas prices are going up, right? What are the economic indicators that are causing gas prices to go up? What else is happening right now? You'll hear this word about supply chain. How do I get the products and services I need to be able to do what I want? Gas prices are going up. That means people that get those goods and services to me have to charge more. Guess what? My prices then are also affected. And that's some of the economic indicators. So where you are now and what's kind of happening in the future. And that's not just in your local area, but that's also broader than that in the US and even beyond that, to have some understanding of what that looks like. So market research really plays a key important role. Is where I want to locate my business in the right place for what I want to do, right? What is the location? Oh, Greg, I found a storefront that I want to put my business in. Okay, well, what is the traffic count? Is that traffic count consist of people that would be target market or customers that you want to attract? I had a client the other day that says, Greg, I want to locate my business near the airport. I said, well, great. What kind of business is it? It was a little deli shop that they wanted to create. What's around you? There were 17 other either combination of restaurants, gas stations that serve food. So all of a sudden, that went into the conversation and say, be aware where your competition is. Do you really want to locate there? Let's consider what may be some other potential options. And that goes into my next point there on the slide, market saturation. If the market is saturated, that means there's a whole lot of what I want to offer in terms of my product or my service in a specific area, and it may be saturated, meaning there may be little or no room for me to enter into that market to be successful. And then lastly,
why is that important to know, Greg?
Well, it's important to know because if the market's saturated and I try to enter my business or start my business in an area, I'm fighting the same customers that are going 17 other places, right? And if I'm doing that, I'm going to get a very small percentage of that big pie. Whether I move to a different location where maybe there are only 2 competitors, guess what? I would have an opportunity to be the one that's saturating the market versus being a part of something that's already saturated. So that's a great question.
So it sounds like having that information prior to, setting up your business location is critical information to know.
It is critical not only to know and understand, but it's also part of the whole picture. Think about this. You're trying to create a business that exists in a specific location. And what you're doing is you're creating a picture. All of the things we're talking about today, it's a part of the picture. So marketing research, and the reason why we talk about that first, because it helps to drive everything else. It helps to validate that you have number one, a really good idea. It makes economic sense. There's a need for your product or your service, and it validates in terms of where you want to potentially locate that business. So all of those are really good points. All right, marketing research methods. There's a couple ways that you can actually do some research, and you can see here, there's what they call primary research. You go out, you do some surveys, you take polls, you gather people together to do what we call focus groups. Intentionality to have questions to really figure out product or service that you have, does it really fit? Are there pros and cons to it? What do people like about it? Maybe they don't like about it. Do they have any suggestions? What you're trying to really create there is a touch and feel opportunity to make sure what you're about to do, what you're about to spend, the next years of your life investing in really, really makes sense. And then you can see there secondary research. Well, part of marketing research is looking at reports and data. If you have a general library card, for example, at your local library, there's a lot of research tools on the library that you can access. When you see there, it says databases and SEO. People say, well, what is SEO? Search engine optimization, right? That's a keyword, and it's a big word. All it's saying is, if I put a keyword into Google, for example, about my product or services, what comes up? What are keywords that associate with that particular thing? And why that's important, because it's going to be about positioning, right? If I'm going to develop a website, if I'm going to develop marketing material, what are some keywords that need to be included in that? So when someone's looking me up on social media, how do they actually find me? Well, guess what? In the marketing side, you're doing that on the front end. So you know who is actually your competitor, who is showing up, who's actually at the top of the list when you do a search for a particular service, right? Who's locally or near to the location that you might want to be placed at, right? You may find a whole lot of things about just by doing that secondary research that can also be important for you as well. Okay, let's talk about competitive analysis. Competitive analysis, one of the first things that I like to talk about is direct versus indirect competitors. If I said to you, for an example, who is a direct competitor of Domino's Pizza? You would say maybe Pizza Hut. Why? Because they're another pizza house. They serve pizza. An indirect competitor to a pizza house would be McDonald's or Burger King, right? They sell burgers primarily, right? So direct competitor has a direct relationship. Indirect, kind of in the same category. They're both food establishments, but necessarily don't specialize in the same kind of thing, okay? Another example, if I said Coca-Cola, right? You would say another competitor would be another soda brand. But if I said Starbucks, they sell coffee, guess what? They're in the drink business, but they're two different. So Coke and Starbucks would be indirect competitors, but they're in the same kind of bucket, if you will, type of business. SWOT analysis, identifying strengths. What are your strengths? What are your personal strengths? What will be your business strength, right? What are you going to do and you can do very well because you have that level of expertise, right? If you don't, it might be a weakness. Doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Doesn't mean you can't do that in business, but it's identifying that up front. We call this a SWOT analysis, identifying your strengths, the business strengths, your individual strengths, your team strengths, as well as your weaknesses, the things that you're challenged with. What are the opportunities? Why are you doing this? What do you see as the potential opportunity? And what potentially could threaten your business? When we all went through COVID over the last couple of years, there were a lot of threats that hadn't been identified. People couldn't imagine that everything would shut down, right? But now you think, well, if something like that were to happen to my business, that could be potentially a threat, right? If gas prices go up the way they are now, and I'm in a transportation business, could that be a threat, right? Food chain, if I need supplies that come from other countries outside the United States, and all of a sudden that supply chain has been hampered, could that be a threat? So it's important that you identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That doesn't make your business plan any different, but it does drive how you address each of those things so that you make sure up front within your business plan those things are covered and addressed appropriately, and there's a plan in place really to look at that. And then you can see there as well, you can use some online and in-person resources. And then they talk about routinely conducting some type of analysis. Good businesses are always trying to gauge for constant feedback, right? I have a client now that every time you go in for sometimes she has a spa business. Time you go in for it, you get a text afterwards. How was your experience? Is there anything that we can improve upon? So constantly there is routine analysis that's put in place so that you're gauging how your business is doing and how the service is being performed and how your product is done as well. Is there anything you'd like to see differently or new? By conducting that analysis, you can actually be able to do that. You also can go out to your competitors and you can find out what are the things that they do really well. What are the things that they don't do well? That's something else you can ask other people as well when you're talking about doing kind of those in-person interviews, you can ask, where do you frequently go for this type of product or this type of service? What has been your experience? If there was anything you would change, what would it be? One of the things I'm learning now from some of our clients, people are willing to pay for convenience, right? So I have for example, a person that supplies to barbershops and beauticians and cosmetologists and all that kind of stuff, hair and beauty. And people are willing to call him up and actually have him deliver products because they don't have time to go to the physical store to be able to do that. So he provides a service of delivering these beauty supply products, and it's working very well. But what's the threat to that, right? The threat to that could be that a barb and beauty supply could do what? Maybe they could go right online at Amazon and they can have it in 2 days. So what is his business going to do? That could be a threat, but also there could be an opportunity as well. Maybe he can deliver it the same day, right? So just thinking through that process can be very, very helpful. Now, I don't see anything in the chat, so I hope you guys are gearing up for questions. Did anybody have any questions at this point, or any thoughts or any comments? And if you do, you're welcome to come off mute and you can give us your thought or comment at this time. I see a smile. That's good. All right. Let's go on. Unique value proposition. All right. What and how will people remember the product or service that you have? What is unique about it? What are the benefits of it? How will you compete and how will you position your company? Okay. So unique. What's unique? What are the benefits? How are you going to stand out? And how are you going to position? If I say to you, just do it, what comes to mind? Nike. If I say to you, golden arches, what comes to mind? McDonald's, right? If I say to you, if you say to me, thank you, and the reply is my pleasure, what do you think about? Chick-fil-A. So, unique value proposition. When you think about your business, what's unique about it? What makes you stand out? How are customers going to benefit from the experience that they're going to have with your business that they're not going to experience anywhere else? How are you going to stand out? And how are you going to position yourself? Okay? Any questions there? Because that's key to really dive into, to understand that you got to have a unique value proposition, and you should be able to articulate that. What is that? Why is it what it was? And it should be a fabric that's built in the culture of your business as you start your business. Okay. Thoughts or comments there? Great. Let's talk about the wonderful business plan. Now, there are several different ways to look at a business plan. And what I want to talk about today is distinctly understanding that a business plan is your roadmap. It provides direction for making business decisions. It's not just an exercise to come up with this 10-page, 12-page, 20-page business plan that sits on the shelf. It really is designed to be this roadmap. Step one, step two. Maybe my business is going to have phases. Here's the big picture, but here's where I want to start. Here's the second thing I want to do. Here's the third thing I want to do. It really is supposed to validate your business idea, okay? And it establishes the ultimate goal. If any of you are in this call today and you want to be in business, but you don't want to make money, then this is not the call for you, right? Business is about making what? Money, okay? It is for profit. So you need to have what? Metrics and goals. Understanding what the planning, this business plan is a planning tool, a management tool, right? It needs to be defined, it needs to be tested and corrected. So what define, test, correct. What does that mean? That means I'm going to do a whole lot of work on making sure I validate my business idea. I look at the marketing research. I understand my competition. I understand my unique value proposition. And guess what? Now I actually have drawn the roadmap of how I think my business is going to be successful. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to test it. Okay, I'm going to test the market, see if I can validate what I am saying, what I believe, and what I've written down is something that's actually going to make sense to other people, right? Is it easily understood, like the examples that I just gave you earlier? Saying 3 words, right? Just do it. The other thing about when you go into Starbucks, which is kind of cool, if you Starbucks drinker, you go in there, they remember what you had the last time. You go, how in the world they remember that? They're learning their customers. They understand their customers. You want that with almond milk, don't you? Oh my gosh, how did you remember that? Because that's part of the culture. What is the experience you actually want your clients to actually be able to receive as well? Any thoughts there, Sandra, at all?
So, Greg, it almost sounds like the business plan is a document that's constantly evolving as you're constantly testing and trying new ways to engage with your clients. You're updating and changing your business plan. So it's almost like a living, breathing document that is evolving with your business, and it reflects what you're doing on a daily basis.
Well said. I think that is well said, that it's something that is visited, should be visited very often. When you start to receive, financials and you start to see how the business is doing, it's an opportunity for you to go in, to update things. If there's some things you learn along the way, as you said, you're updating, you're changing, you're inflecting, you're putting those things in. But it is I think that well said, it's a living and breathing document that really is something that guides you through the process. But also, in addition to that, if you had to share it with someone else, you have something that's not just in your head, but it's something you thought about and you've actually put it on paper. So very well said. Some key sections of the business plan you can see here. And I'll start, executive summary always comes first, but it's actually the last thing that you actually write, because everything else really is very well stated. And then you do an executive summary of all of that. So a business and industry review, and we talked about that marketing, data, and research. What is the industry? What is the business, right? There are things along the way that you'll learn that are going to be important to understand and give someone a view. Remember, I'm painting a picture. Then I talk about the market analysis and competition. Here's what I found out about what it is, the product or service that I want to offer. Here's what I know about the competition. Here's who the competition is. Here is what the competition does, right? It outlines all that in the plan. And that's important to know that. Then you get into what? Well, what do I think I'm going to do? What are my sales and marketing numbers? Sales and marketing are 2 different things. Sales are things that if I'm making a widget or a screw or a bolt or a doorknob, okay, how many of those doorknobs am I actually going to make and sell, right? And so understanding the sales piece of that. Marketing is really saying, how do I take the thing that I've made or the service I provided, how am I going to distribute and get the word out? Am I doing that through social media? There's a lot of social media ways to be able to do that. Which ones are right for me? Which ones are not right for the type of business, the target customer that I'm trying to promote, right? Is it by email? Is it by phone call? Is it by blah, 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 direct mail? What is the marketing plan that helps me actually sell the service or provide or let people know about the service or product that I actually have? And how often am I going to do that? Very important part, okay? Years ago, I had a client that was an insurance agent, and this insurance agent would do direct mail was one of the opportunities. They would send 1,000 postcards every week to the same 1,000 people for 4 weeks in a row. Why do you think they did that? Well, now we think about mail, right? Junk mail, because people probably wouldn't even pay attention to it till they saw the third one. Why does the person keep sending me a postcard? Maybe I need to look at it, right? Soliciting for insurance services. So what is that approach? Marketing is a very important part of your plan. And guess what? Sales, how much I'm going to sell, supports expenses. How much am I going to spend? But it's important to think about how you're going to market your business. Is it word of mouth? Is it reputational business that you're trying to build, where you create repeat customers? Well, guess what? How do you do that? What's that part of the marketing plan? All right. Ownership and management, very important. Are you going to be structured? We're going to talk about that in just a little bit and get into more specifics, but understanding what that plan actually is. Who are the foundational pieces of your business? Who's a part of your management team? For example, for me, I know and have a lot of clients that are accountants. Myself, I'm not an accountant. Guess what? I need an accountant on my team or a bookkeeper that will help me with that part of it. There's legal aspects potentially of my business or service. Guess what? That I need to have what? An attorney as a part of my team or access to that. So part of the management team and operation team is understanding the components. I don't have to be everything, but I need to think about what are the components that I need to have accessibility to make sure that my business will flourish. And then we just talked about there as well, thinking about your operational and your financial plan. At the end of the day, you've got to be able to operate your business. If I were to pick up your operational plan, do I have a step-by-step approach to understand how the business will function, right? Financial plan, again, how am I going to sell? What are my expenses going to look like? And all of that. And guess what? The great thing about SBDC is we help you with all that. Okay, let's talk about legal structure. There are several ways to structure your business. Several ways to structure your business. Let me pause for a second. Sandra, I see there's a couple people in the chat. Are there questions in the chat or any comments?
No, just people making comments talking about how statistics show people usually spend money once they see something at least 7 times. So that SEO optimization that you were talking about earlier, as well as the direct mail, social media, the more that people see your business and the services that you offer, the more likely you're going to get a customer.
That's correct. And then on top of that, Sandra, then you got to think about what it takes to keep the customer.
Mm-hmm.
How much is it going to take on the front end to get a customer? But then how do I keep and retain that customer? And so there's a lot to that. And this workshop is not meant to be like super scary, but it really is trying to give you a reality to understand there's a lot that goes into it. But guess what? You do the right things up front. Guess what? On the back end, you'll see and reap those rewards. So legal structure, there's several ways to structure your business. And an advisor would go into great detail, can go into great detail about all of these, but you can think about as a sole proprietor, it's just me, right? I want to go into business. I will assume all, and I'm going to throw this word out, liability. Liability, and I'm going to tell you what that is. I can assume all liability, right? So what does liability mean? Liability means I assume all liability. If I'm making snow cones and I put my snow cone together here in Oklahoma City yesterday, it was 95 degrees. It was warm. And I got my big snow cone, ice on top, syrup, my favorite flavor, and I'm eating that snow cone, and I sell that snow cone to you, and you eat that snow cone, and at first it tastes great. But all of a sudden you start getting sick. Your eyes start to get red. Tears start coming to your eyes. You just, I don't know, you start vibrating. Something happens. And you know what? You trace it back to that snow cone. You guys, Greg, you made a snow cone and I got sick from it. Who's liable? I am. So liability, that I am liable for something that I made and sold to you. So I'm responsible. What am I responsible for? Well, guess what? You had to take out work. Guess what? You got sick. You had to go to the hospital. You had a doctor's bill. You had the day off work. I'm responsible to have to take care of that. Well, guess what? I said, yes.
Greg, that's an important point that you're making, because with the sole proprietorship, you're 100% liable. So that person that had the reaction to the snow cone could not only sue the company, they'll be suing you because you're one and the same.
That is exactly right. Well said. Sole proprietor means you and the company are one. Sandra said it best. So they're suing the company, but they're suing you as an individual. Well, what does that really mean? Well, guess what? I have a car, I have a house, I have personal assets, bank account, all of that. So they're tapping into what? All of that potentially. So that's what you're on the hook for, or you're liable for, okay? So there are partnerships, S Corp, C Corp, LLC. Now, all of them have different structures. Partnership means just it's more than one person that wants to go in together to form a business. They want to form a what? Partnership. And it has a structure. You have S Corp, you have C Corp, you have LLC. Now, most of what we see as advisors is LLC, limited liability corporation. The biggest difference between an LLC, a C Corp, S Corp, from a sole proprietor is it separates the liability from you as an individual and the company. There are two. They go from one to being two. Okay. So while they have different tax structures and they're formed differently, they separate the liability. So most of the time, what you're going to hear, as we would advise most companies, we would say you want to have separate liability. Okay. Now, how you do that, partnership, S Corp, C Corp, LLC, is up to you, but separating that liability. So back to my snow cone example, now I'm suing the business or making a claim against the business, but not against Greg Jones. Okay.
Your assets are protected. Your home, your car, your bank account are potentially protected with the legal structure as opposed to your sole proprietorship.
That is absolutely correct. And so that is vitally important that you protect yourself at all costs. Most people ask the question at this point in the workshop and say, well, Greg, how much does it cost to set up a legal structure? In the state of Oklahoma, it's very inexpensive, right? It can be done online with the Oklahoma Secretary of State. We actually can walk you through that process. Some people go out and hire somebody to do that. We usually advise against that because we can show you and give you a template and a way to be able to do that you can do for yourself and have it done within 15 or 20 minutes. Understanding whether you want to be an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, that does take a little bit more work, and there are some more information that you would need to review to make that decision. And you can even consult with someone else as an attorney, if you would, to make sure that that structure is right for you. The main thing that we want to talk about here is separating that liability from you personally with your business.
Greg, we have a question before you move forward.
Okay.
Asking why would somebody set up a business as a sole proprietorship and assume that liability?
Well, there are many reasons why, because as a sole proprietor, you can do that, and there really is no cost to being able to set I'm in business and I want to be in business. I guess I'll give you an example of someone that set up as a sole proprietor. And I'm not, again, validating it one way or the other. But I had a client about 6 months ago, just for the summer, 3 months, set up a car washing business. And the car washing business was at his own residence. So he used his own water in his own driveway, and he washed cars. Is there liability in that? There's still liability, but the risk he thought was low enough and insignificant enough that if water is not going to do damage to his car. Now, he washing the car, just him by himself washing the car, he felt like he couldn't cause any damage. So there could be reasons why people would say sole proprietor makes sense. I still wouldn't advise it, because as a business, what if he had so many cars to wash? He said, well, I'm going to hire my neighbor to come wash the cars with me, right? Now what happens? Something comes up missing in somebody's car. Who's liable? He would be. So again, trying to give you an example of where that might fit, but it's hard to really place why there really makes a valid case for a sole proprietor. But it is part of our legal structure, and people do have that option. The other thing I didn't mention to you is, as a sole proprietor, all your taxes, you're taxed like you are personally, right? Even an LLC, you still file your own tax return. It's under a Schedule C, but it is a separate schedule. So the business stands on its own, right? And an S Corp and a C Corp taxes have to be filed separately. So I hope that answered your question. All right, some key factors in your selection. that we haven't mentioned already. One is, being able to form your legal structure. How is the tax going to be treated? In other words, how are you going to be taxed on the business? For example, as an S corporation is set up as a structure where I can actually, as an individual owner, draw a salary from it, right? But there's a different tax treatment to that. And so again, understanding, and you would need to understand how the tax treatment would affect your business. What are other types of business like the one that I want to start or that I'm in? How are they actually set up as a legal structure and the tax treatment? A good accountant or a bookkeeper can probably share some really good information with you. And I would advise that you talk to one so that you can really get an understanding of that. The other thing is the ability to raise capital. Structure that you're in kind of can dictate how you can actually be able to raise capital or money for your actual business. We talked about protection, and then we also talked about transfer of ownership. So depending on your structure, depending on how you're structured, remember, people get into business, but also people need to have a way to get out of business as well. And what would that actually look like in terms of a transfer of ownership or for someone else to continue your business if you were no longer able to be able to do so? So these are all important factors with the legal structure. Okay, the fun stuff. Everybody wants to talk about or would like to talk about, how am I going to fund my business? And there's several ways to be able to do that. The first one is, how much money do you have? I'm going to tell you right off. You should be thinking about how are you putting dollars aside to have capital. Whether you go to get traditional lending at a bank, all of them are going to ask you for what? Potentially a down payment, or to infuse so much of your own money, owner's equity, into the business. So you've got to have some money. If you don't have money, you need to be able to raise money. One way of doing that, it's on the list, is crowdfunding, right? So crowdfunding model is simple. It is, there are people out there, organizations out there that will help you raise money. So a lot of them will have certain terms and conditions. You will still have to raise a little portion of the money, but they raise the rest. And then they say, okay, you've now qualified for this amount of money. You go raise, and I'm going to give an example. You raise $500 in a certain period of time, then we'll go raise the rest. And let's say it was $8,000. They go raise the other $7,500 for a total of $8,000, right? They raise it for you. They say, okay, we're going to charge you a particular interest. Here are the terms. Here's how much you're going to pay per month, and you have this many months to pay that back. It's a way of using other people's money to help fund your business. It's crowdfunding. Okay. There's also crowdsourcing, loans, traditional banks. I would say to all of you, where do you currently have a bank account now for your personal checking account? Talk to them, ask them, do they have a small business department that provides small business products and services? If they do, and you're thinking about starting a business, after you form your legal structure, we'll talk about that in a minute, you can open up a small business checking account, right? And you start that path with the current institution that you're already with. If you're part of a credit union, a lot of them don't have small business checking accounts. You probably want to ask one of our advisors, where else would you recommend that are small business friendly? You can do your own research. You could ask around. But the thing and the point there is that you want to establish that specific relationship. And then the other one there, before I talk about the last one, is investors, okay? There are people out there that will invest in your business. All the investors that I've ever met, they're all different. They're looking for something different. They all have different areas of services or where they want to invest their money. They have their own conditions. It's all about not necessarily where you find money, but it's the terms and conditions. What are you going to have to do? What are you going to have to pay back? What do you have to give up a portion or percentage of ownership of your business? All those kinds of things investors might actually be looking at. But these are sources of funding to help your business. Now, the last one there is one of my favorites. People say, are there grants? Well, the answer is no, but there's an exception, okay? There are no grants out there. People aren't just saying, hey, I'm a nonprofit organization. I just want to give you as much money as you need as a grant. I will say, as we've gone through COVID, the government did put out last year in the form of some forgivable, what they call forgivable loans, right? And there are some other opportunities for that now. We just got word this week. There's some other opportunities for that now. So sometimes money is loaned to you and that it may be forgiven. Okay. It may be forgiven. Okay. So that's an opportunity. But there are other programs out there. Here in Oklahoma City, there's a program that came through ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, and they are doing technical assistance. We're not giving you money, but they're giving you access to technical assistance. Guess what? A lot of what we do provides that kind of assistance, again, at no cost to you. There may be money available to do some improvements to your business. So you might find in your local area that there are opportunities. But when people talk about other grants, like tell me the list of grants, I don't have a list of grants. I mean, when they come up, they're far and few between. And so I like to always kind of dispel that myth, because there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that say grants available, grants available, grants available, grants available. Where are the grants, right? Technically, there are no grants. And what I kind of mentioned probably would be what I have seen come up. Sandra, would you have anything to add to that? I mean, would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Let's see. We're kind of winding down now. We talked about a whole lot of stuff. Okay. And I want to make sure that we open up for some questions if you have some. Business name registration. Okay. First thing, you got to conduct a search. There's a website. It's called the Oklahoma Secretary of State website. You go in, you Google, make a search. Is the name available? Taken. If it's not taken, guess what? You can have it. I'm not ready to open my business yet, Greg. I'm 6 months away. You can actually register your name if you want. There's a small fee for that. I think it's $5 or $10. You can register the name and you can hold that name if you want. The other thing you want to do, if you're ready to go ahead and register, you actually can register your legal name. What do you need to know? How am I registering it? Am I going to be a sole proprietor, an LLC, SC Corp? You got to do a little research ahead of time, because you've got to put that information in when you register it. Am I going to do my business as something? Okay. Had a client that had an umbrella organization. Okay. And the umbrella organization was named something. Let's just say, for example, my last name is Jones LLC, but he was doing business as Jones Car Wash, or you can actually set that up as what they call a DBA, doing business as. And so there's a way we can walk you through that as well. You also would get your employee identification number. That's through the IRS. Go to irs.gov, put in employee identification number, and you actually can get your identification number. You want to register with the state first, right? Then you want to register to get your employee identification number. Why do I say it in that order? Because I've got to make sure I got the name, business registered, registration received. It's all electronic. Now I go to the IRS with my business name, right? Because I've got it registered, and then I can receive my employee identification number. So just like each of us as individuals have a social security number, that's how your business is recognized, with an employee identification number. And then also you can register a domain name, which means like going out to a website and registering a domain name that you can actually have and keep. So when at some point, when you have your social media channels, website, and all of that, you can be able to do that. Okay. If you have employees, you have to have these things in place, right? There's no way you can get around payroll taxes. There's no way you can get around unemployment. There's no way you can get around paying Social Security taxes. And if you have employees, you're going to have to get what they call workers' compensation. And so these are other things that as an advisor, we can talk you through, but also an accountant, a bookkeeper can talk you through as well. When you think about FUTA, that's the federal unemployment tax. And then the SUTA is the state unemployment tax. Everybody has to do that because guess what? If you have an employee on your payroll and you decide that they're no longer a fit for your company and you dismiss them, they can claim what? Unemployment. And this is, everybody pays unemployment taxes to be able to, so when that happens, you're actually submitting or paying into the system so that they can actually have that. So that's something that is a must. It's a requirement. It's not something you can get out of as well. Any questions on that at all?
But Greg, if you have a employee that's a 1099, you don't actually have to pay or taxes.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. So 1099 means a contract employee. So got a client that has a lawn business, and what he does is every year he himself is in business and works, but he has people working for him, but they're all contract employees. So they have their own equipment, they provide their own truck, their own lawn equipment, all that. They go out, but they work for him as a contractor. Okay, so at the end of the year, he submits with it to them a 1099. This is how much I paid them. They are responsible now to actually file that under their own taxes. So that's a good point, Sandra. There are alternatives in terms of where this may not actually apply. Okay.
We have a question about if insurance is needed if you don't have employees. So again, this reiterates, if you have 1099 employees, you're not required to offer insurance. However, if it's a sole proprietorship and you want to offer yourself insurance, then you have that option. Is that correct?
That is correct. So keeping in mind, workers' comp insurance is only if you have hired employees. If I contract them out, I don't have to have workers' comp insurance. Now, insurance can be a big term, and so I want to say, as we relate to that, that's correct. But as a business, I would also want to have insurance on my business, okay? So regardless of how I'm set up with my employees, I want my business insured. If I have a storefront, guess what? I have what? The building itself, what I put into the business, all of my business contents. So I want to make sure if something would happen and tornado came through, that I have to have something to protect me for that. If I'm in the car wash business, right? Again, I'm just doing it at my house. What do I have, right? I still have materials. I have business tools. When I talked about a barber and a barber and beautician, what do they have? Even if I just lease a specific space in a barber shop, I still have my own stuff, and it would be wise to have what? Protection or insurance for that. So when we talk about employees, workers' comp, that's one thing, but also we would also look at advising you to have some type of business insurance on your actual business itself, whether you have a storefront or whether you just provide a service. So that's a great question. I hope we answered. If we didn't, please don't hesitate to put that information or follow-up question in the chat for us. All right. If you do have employees, here are the things: a W-4, there's an I-9, there's a new hire report. So there are a series of things that you have to put in place as you hire employees that have to be put in place, and they have to be updated on a periodic basis. Remember how we talked about in the beginning, your business plan, forming a team? Here's another area where I always talk about forming a team, right? And this is one of the areas I always advise people. This is not your thing, great. Find someone, a bookkeeper, an accountant that can help keep up this kinds of things for you as well. And there are services you can pay for that will actually do this. So they will file these forms for you. They will make sure that information is kept up to date. But there are requirements that have to be done to make sure that your business stays validated on an annual basis. Okay, so we're winding up to the end, and we're almost at 12 o'clock as well. So the timing is good. We want to make sure that we answer any questions that you might have or get comments from you as well. So connect with what? An SBDC advisor, Small Business Development Center. Connect with us. We'd love to see how we can help assist you. Review and follow up. We'll do that with an email after the webinar. Again, we'll send you the business plan, the PowerPoint presentation, so that you can start. If you're not, where are you at in your business? Okay. Don't be afraid if you are not at a place yet and this is somewhat intimidating. That's what we're here for, to be able to do that. We want to work with you so we can help you establish some SMART goals. What does SMART stand for? Specific goals. How do we measure them, right? How do we attain them? What's relevant, and time? So we want to help you establish some of those SMART goals, register your business, and do some marketing research as well. Here's our contact information. Again, it'll be sent to you, but you can always jot down. If you like me with no hair, or you like Sandra and her smile, guess what? We are two advisors that would be willing to sit and help with you to walk you through the process. So again, that's the presentation piece. I want to make sure that you have thoughts, questions, comments. Here's a time now that we will open it up, or you can come off mute, and I'd love to just kind of hear from you.
Looks like we don't have any additional questions in the chat. So,
okay. Well, if you will, make sure that you go out, and there is a poll that should just come up. It's a survey. Please, if you don't mind, if you will fill that out for us, so that we can engage your feedback for how we did on this workshop today. There are just 3 questions there. That would be very, very, very helpful for us as we move forward. We're always trying to improve that. Remember, at our website, oksbdc.org, there is an opportunity for you to actually go in and see all the workshops that we're offering throughout the course of the month. Our friend and cohort, Cindy, is there as well. Cindy, anything else that you want to add related to workshops that may be coming up later this month or next month?
I would just encourage everyone to check out the website, take a look around. There's an entire journey through that website. You can see and explore everything that we do. Take a look at the workshop calendar. I believe everything is scheduled out through June. We'll be adding workshops for the next quarter very soon. So just take a look around and see if there's anything that piques your interest, and make sure you follow us on social media if you can. There's a lot of information that comes through those streams. So we encourage you to follow us there for current information as well. And I believe that's about it for me today.
I saw one question. Somebody says that advisors sign to us when we apply, or can we request someone? Either way, an advisor will be assigned to you if you go online. When you go into the website, you'll see request advising. Takes you really a few minutes to fill that information out. Try to be as detailed on it as you possibly can. And an advisor will be assigned to you. But again, if you would like to have myself or Sandra as an advisor, again, we would be glad to work with you. There really isn't a box in the advisement field to do that. So again, when I put the slide up with our email address, just let one of us know, and we'll be on the back end, kind of let them know how to be able to do that for you. So that's a great question. Sandra, did you see any other questions in the chat that I missed by any chance?
Nope, I think we got everything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your patience on today. We really enjoyed you being with us on today. And again, go out, stay safe, travel safe, be safe, enjoy the weather. And we hope to see you next time on one of our upcoming workshops or events, or we hope to see you as a potential client that we can help. Okay, take care.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.